In today's conversation, we are going to talk about what puts you in the spotlight. We're also going to talk about doing things with intention, not for attention. And yes, there's a difference. Let's get into it. Welcome into the Bears and Lions podcast. I am your host, Kyle Vaught. And this is the podcast where we challenge the present by viewing our past. I'm a firm believer that the greatest future lies within the correct view of your past, because when you actually look at your past, you see all of the things that you've conquered, all of the things that you've overcome, and you see how strong you actually are. You see that you are more prepared than you could ever imagine to step into whatever future you may be afraid of, and you are ready to step into the unknown. So let's step in together. I'm so excited about this conversation. It is a brand new week, and this is a conversation that I've had with myself for years, possibly my whole entire life. I've always asked myself, how can I be in the spotlight? I've always, as a younger brother of three boys, I'm the youngest and the middle child of five in a family. I've always fought for that attention and wanted to be in the spotlight in some way, shape, or form. In fact, my parents have videos of me as a kid saying, take me picture, because, you know, I wanted to be in the spotlight at all times. So this conversation has been a part of my life, right? Before we get into it, I just want to preface this. This has been something that I have been thinking about and talking internally with myself for years and years. And so as I walk through this, I want to tell you, there was a massive breakthrough in 2016 for me that changed everything. So I want to share that breakthrough with you today. And hopefully it'll encourage you, and it may give you that opportunity to think about it a different way, because that's exactly what happened. So we look at it in 2016, there was something specific that happened, and I remember it very vividly because the 2016 Olympics were going on in Rio, and Michael Phelps came out of retirement. I don't know if you remember, he retired in 2012, and then he came out of retirement in 2014, and we found out, yes, he is indeed going to swim in Rio. And it was a big deal. So Under Armour had this incredible commercial, and I will never forget it because the first time I saw it, it was more impactful than most movies had been on my life. And the commercial, it opens up with Michael Phelps swimming alone in a dark pool. And as the commercial progresses, it shows him training and getting the sports massage. This is when cupping was really big, where you saw the benefits of it. So you see him cupping. And then the song The Last Goodbye by The Kills plays. And the commercial ends with Phelps standing in the dark, and the crowd starts cheering. And as it fades to black, these words pop up on the screen. It's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light. Rule yourself. And when I tell you I had chills the first time I saw that commercial, I knew that was the answer that I had always thought I needed to hear. Because I always wanted to be in the spotlight, whether it was a relational thing. If only she could see me, if only there was an opportunity that I could be her boyfriend, or if it was at work, if only somebody would see how great of a job I do and would notice. I have challenged and been challenged by this argument that has gone on in my head, is how can I be in the spotlight? And this commercial that was about 30 seconds rocked my world, and it's stuck with me ever since. It has stuck with me ever since. It's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light. Rule yourself. And it gave me a mentality and a hope that when I set my mind to something, I don't care what is going on in my life, I'm going to find a way to accomplish that. Rain or shine, it doesn't matter. And I remember when I went to school for sports broadcasting, I used to sit in my apartment before I went to school for sports broadcasting. I lived on my own and was working a completely different career job, and I hadn't even decided to go back to school yet, but I knew I wanted to do sports broadcasting. So I would sit in my living room of my apartment. I would mute basketball games, hockey games, football games, even baseball games, and I would cast them to myself. Nobody's there. Nobody knows. It was just something that I did, and this was a big deal because it was after this commercial that I started doing that before I went back to school in late 2016. So I'm just saying this is something that is very, very close and near and dear to my heart. And I hope that it encourages you because I looked back on the original. I wanted to see who said that quote. Did Under Armour just come up with that quote? And it just blew my mind. It's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light. Rule yourself. So I did some research and it boiled down to this guy named D.L. Moody, who actually originally said character is what a man is in the dark. And so it was just an adaptation of that. Same principle, same meaning, not trying to copy anybody. There was no ill intent there. It's the same meaning. What you do when nobody is looking matters more than what you do when people are looking. And that was a massive just mind shift when it came to my life, is realizing I don't care what people say or what people do. I want to see the intention and the motivation and the work behind the scenes. That's why in school, our radio broadcast was called the Grind Sports Network, or the Grind Sports Radio Show, is because no matter if you want to be an astronaut or an athlete, there is a grind that takes place completely behind the scenes. If you want to be an athlete, you've got to work when nobody else is watching. Otherwise, somebody else is going to outwork you because they're working when nobody else is watching. They're waking up at 5 a.m. They're going for runs. They're working out. They're doing the things they need to do. In the same sense, if you want to be a astrophysicist or a brain surgeon, it doesn't matter. You have to do work when nobody's looking, because that is the mentality that it takes in order to be diligent enough to learn those things and learn those skills. It blew me away too, because as I was going through this in preparation for this conversation today, I've talked about it before. I'm a firm believer. I do devotions, but I don't ever want you to not listen because I'm a Christian. I believe these things. I understand if you don't, that's absolutely okay. You can tune out. This isn't like a Christian-y podcast, so I'm not going to deviate and let's open the Bible and talk about X, Y, and Z. There will be days when I do things like that because I can't share stories about my life without that, because it's such a big part of me. But today I was reading a Bible verse, which it blew me away because I was in preparation of this conversation. And 1 Timothy 5:25 says, in the same way, the good deeds of some people are obvious, meaning they do them when everybody's watching, because that's the normal thing to do, right? I want people to see me do good. But then it goes on and says, the good deeds done in secret will someday come to light. Boom. It is the same as the quote. It's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light. Mind blown. That's what kind of gets me with how this life continues to progress, is because there are certain things that I feel are just universal to human beings across the globe. If you want something, then it takes a diligent work towards that thing, and you have to be able to do it rain or shine, when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're not feeling like it. You have to be able to block out all of the voices in your head and just say, no, I'm going to do this because I'm obsessed with it. I want to accomplish this, and nothing's going to stand in my way. This brings us to our second point today, is doing things with intention versus doing things for attention. Very much so like that quote and like that Bible verse that we talked about. In the same way that the good deeds of some people are obvious, and the good deeds done in secret will come to light. If you're doing things only when people are watching, you're doing it for attention. You're doing it for intention, and that attention is not going to lead to one, discipline. It's not going to lead to a complete success unless you are legitimately just always around people. You will learn a lot by doing things for attention. I have learned a lot of things for attention. I promise you. I've learned I've learned musically how to do certain things for attention. So guitar, other practice piano, not really good. Sing, things like that. That was for attention. I've learned how to, I didn't really learn how to dance too much because I grew up learning how to dance because I had parents that wanted us to learn how to dance. So swing dancing, line dancing, vintage dancing, ballroom type stuff. Like I learned a lot of that growing up just because that's what my mom was into. So that's what we learned as kids, which is fine. But I've learned a lot of things for attention, and I guarantee those are the things that slip away. If you don't use it very often, it's going to slide away. You're going to forget about it, and you're not going to be able to just bring it back up into your memory because it's just for attention. You didn't do it for yourself. Doing things with intent. So there's the difference between intention and attention. So when you do things with intent, you are aiming and planning, this is how I'm going to do it. I've had to change my schedule a little bit to be able to adapt with intent of, I know I have to work these specific hours during the day. I know that these specific hours are less busy at the gym. I know I want to go to the gym every single day. It would be beneficial for me to change my schedule and do that. So that's exactly what I've done. I've done it with intent. This podcast, the days that this podcast is released, I figure these conversations should be released on Mondays and Thursday mornings. And yes, I say mornings because I want people to be able to listen to them on the way to work, on the way to the gym, on the way wherever they're going to breakfast, getting ready for school. I want this to be accessible in the morning when people are just getting active because I want to challenge them first things in the morning. I want their brain to be active and I want them to be thinking about these things throughout the day. And maybe it will challenge and make their day a little bit better because instead of falling into a moment of I'm just doing things for attention, they do things with intention. Attention is the notice taken of someone or something and the regarding of someone or something as interesting or important. So attention is trying to look important, feel important, act important. That's doing something for attention. Doing something with intention is I am deliberately doing this because I know it's good for me. I know that's a lot of I's and uhs, and we've kind of gone back and forth. Intention versus attention. This is something that I've had to learn. I cannot go throughout my day with just being by myself completely. I am an extrovert like crazy. When COVID was happening, I looked for any human contact or communication across anything because I genuinely, I went insane. I lost everything about who I was as a person during COVID because I could not process the fact that I was alone. Now I've done things with intention of learning how to be alone. And with intent, I've learned that process of saying, okay, no, I need to be alone right now because I need to be intentional about what my energy looks like. Am I getting enough rest? Am I eating the right things? Am I staying healthy? And that's been a big deal with these last few months is I've stepped away from everything. And I've been able to really get comfortable being alone, but I still need people. So I know that I need to be intentional about putting myself back into those conversations, back into those areas where I'm around people and able to recharge my batteries, because that's exactly how I recharge my batteries. Now, maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're more of a introvert and you don't like being around people. and you energize by being alone. On that side, you may want to be intentional about getting out of your comfort zone very selectively to be able to get that balance, at least so you get some human interaction so that you don't consume yourself in that isolation. Because I know that isolation can absolutely overwhelm the best and the strongest, and even the most introverted. I have seen isolation completely just be destructive in people's lives. So just as a memento of what to do this week, if you find yourself really isolated or just really out there, if you're an extrovert like me, if you're just really out there, be intentional and try to find some balance by being intentional with yourself or being intentional around others. Don't do it for attention, just do it intentionally. That's pretty much the biggest thing that has changed in my life. Is I don't want attention. I don't want people to say, oh, look at Kyle. This is all he's doing in his life and this is awesome. That's great. What I want is I want to do things with intention, and my intent is to inspire somebody. So I don't mind somebody saying, oh, look at what Kyle's doing. He's doing a lot of really cool things. Great. What are you going to do about it? Are you just saying, cool, that Kyle's really awesome? No, I'm not. I'm just a normal dude who's trying really hard. That's my biggest point. Is I hope that as I go through life, I'm not doing it for attention. I want to do it with intention to inspire others, so that after a conversation, they say, I've never thought of it that way. I want to maybe try that. I want to challenge people to be able to walk away or tell a story or talk to a group of people and walk away knowing I left that group in a mentality of positivity, joy, excitement for life, because life is so exciting. I don't know if you know this, but we're alive and we are breathing air. It's crazy. It's everywhere. Right now on this planet, we're breathing in oxygen and we're breathing out CO2. Like, it's wild whenever I start thinking about this. Life is exciting and I absolutely love it. So please be intentional with your life. And if you want to be in the spotlight, I promise you, the best way to be in the spotlight is to do things in the dark and know that one day they are going to come to light. That's going to do it for this conversation. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.